Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. The JAMODI podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. Big culture guy, and especially, I think if you've ever worked for PGC, I just don't know how you don't believe in everybody. Right. Everybody, whether they know it or not, everybody believes in culture. They have one. It's either they're in control of it and helping it to grow, or it's out of control and they're in trouble. But so I know you believe in it. How does it drive performance?
I feel like a culture, it can do one or two things. The first one is I feel like it sets the floor. Right. So if you have a true culture of togetherness and how we work, how we approach situations, blah blah blah, and everybody wants to be part of it, you will set the floor as, okay, we'll be this type of team because our culture is this strong. We'll always be this type of team. And then when you get certain talent and you get certain things, then you can go up the chute. On the other side, I think you can see it of like a kind of does it set the ceiling? Like, does it set the floor? Does it set the ceiling? Does it set the ceiling as far as you have this much talent, but your culture isn't that strong, where it's like, this is as high as you can go. Your talent can get you here, but it's not going to get you any higher, and that's what I think that culture, how culture drives performance, is like, just elevates everybody in the program. Or if you don't have that culture, that you're controlled and it's a negative culture, it kind of sets the ceiling on how far your team can go. Thoughts agree on that, or what do you?
Well, yeah, right on the money, because look at every NBA team. Every NBA team has stars.
No doubt.
Some have more than others, but they all have stars. But you can tell the culture of these elite people, and the coaches are great, and they have all the help and all the financial, but it still comes down to buy-in, relationships, the level of care, how important the players see culture in relation to winning.
Yeah,
that's what is most important at that level. Yeah. I think it's you're right on the money.
Yeah, it's so, like, everybody talks about culture, and you need it, and this, that, and the third, and same thing in the business world, same thing in the school environment. What's our school culture and things like that, but to live it out every single day, right, and it to be so ingrained that you don't really have to talk about it. Those are the types of coaches that I like to follow. Those are the types of environments I want to be part of. Is like Miami Heat right now, man. If you read anything that their players are saying or listen to any of their post game comments, like, they all sound the same. Yeah. They all sound the same. And like, they're not out here like, obviously everybody knows Miami Heat culture if you know the NBA, how good it's been, but their players are just like, it's so crazy to hear how they're like, literally you can put the mic in front of Jimmy Butler or PJ Tucker or whoever, Tyler here, and like, they all celebrate each other. They all say somebody else's name. They all, talk about the game plan. They all talk about his next man up. And so it's real, right? Yeah. It's not fake. It's real.
Man, you're so true. Like, when it's really starting to trickle down, when they're speaking the same, they're even mimicking, sometimes mocking, but mimicking what you're saying, the same phrases. Yep. I think you're right there. The other thing you said was it does come down to consistency. What's one of the hardest things in the world to do in any arena? It could be with your marriage, it could be with parenting, it could be with your faith, it could be with coaching. Is to be consistent in how you show up every day. So you could boil down to the teams that have issues with their culture. They probably have an issue with consistency.
Yes.
And because everybody, most likely in their gym, they have words on the wall, they have a few posters, they've had somebody come in and do some cool art. They
Yep.
may even do one culture building activity that looks great on Instagram. But if
Yep.
there's no consistency with it, then you'll see those fluctuations, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And if as a player, I played for a coach that you didn't know if he was gonna you didn't know if he was going to walk in and give you a hug or if he was gonna walk in and bite your head off, right? So the old adage is like, if you don't know, what do you stop doing? You stop going up to him, right? If you don't know if he's gonna lean in and give you a hug or lean in and try to bite your head off for some reason that you don't know, you just stop, leaning into your coach, type of thing. And if you don't know how your coaching staff or the leaders on your team are going to show up every single day, you start to just kind of like back up and wait. You start to kind of like look sideways, and you don't know.
How is he today?
Right? Yeah, that's exactly you know how it is. It's like, oh, coach, hey, coach is walking in like this today, like blah
Yeah.
blah blah. And when you have that, like that's not real. That's not real culture.
And today's players need to know. Today's
Yes.
players need to know who you are and how you're going to show up every day, and be able to bank on that. The days of, and I mean, reading books even on Bobby Knight, like one of the greatest coaches of all time, it seemed as if he was purposefully keeping them off balance, never wanted them to feel comfortable. And there is a part of, you can create maybe a sharpness of that. Like, you can never come in and just be relaxed. You better be on edge. I guess there's a part of performance where that could elevate some things. But with times changing, with this buzzword culture being out there, and how easy it is for players to just change and move
Yeah.
and go other places, I think consistency from us is more important than ever before.
Totally agree. And there's also that misconception too of sometimes like people like, oh, you're a culture based coach or you're a relationship based coach, like that means you're soft. And it's like, no, that does not. That's not what that.
Yeah.
That's not what that means at all. It means actually the probably the opposite of that. And you can have a culture of truth telling. And that's the biggest thing that I love about my relationship with my players is they know I'm going to tell them the truth. Right, when they're showing up the right way and they're chasing their best self and like they're going to know I'm gonna pat them on the back, I'm gonna give them a hug, I'm gonna give them a high five, I'm gonna praise them.
Yep.
But when they're not, I'm also going to tell them like you're not showing up as your best self. Like that's not acceptable. And you can have that conversation and still be a relationship based coach or have culture.
And it's just probably not going to be angry and yelling,
Right.
which, who wants to hear that every
Yeah.
day? So I completely agree with you. For those that say a culture based coach or program, which even that word is weird, that even that phrase, because
Yeah.
everybody is,
Yep.
but the ones that are maybe positive or intentional, oh, they just never are hard on their players. Or I think telling the truth is one of the hardest things to do to anyone at every time, to confront someone in truth and love. But it doesn't, if you have a relationship with that person, you don't have to yell at them to get your point
Right.
across, because they already know that you care. People, when they yell, it's that emotion of coming out, and they really want to make sure that this person knows how passionate they are. I just think you don't have to try so hard if the relationship piece is already there.
Yeah. Quick story. This is you. I love what you're saying here because like when I was teaching in school, there was this one time this kid did something silly in class. They know he wasn't supposed to be doing, and I was like, Michael, out in the hallway. Like that's like out in the hallway. Now these are juniors and seniors in high school, right? So I'm like out in the hallway. So like finish up the 30-second segment I was saying. And so I go out in the hallway and I'm like really just like they're like, what do you think it's funny to be the class clown and like why like blah 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 like all these things like this isn't who you are but you're acting like this. And I would say like I was speaking definitely with a raised voice, but didn't cuss, didn't anything crazy, whatever. Goes back in the classroom at lunch, like 8 teachers come up to me in the cafeteria like, oh my gosh, all the students were saying like Coach Mills, Mr. Mills went off on him today. Like he went off, like yada, yada, yada. Like all the students were like, oh my goodness. And like, it was such in that moment of also realizing of like, when you do have to raise your voice just a little bit, when it's not the norm, people know like, oh, I messed up. Oh, that was wrong, and understand like, oh, something has to change in that moment. Versus if every single day you're always like that and you do, like, nobody will know the difference. It's like that coach that comes in every single time at halftime is just yelling and screaming, yelling and screaming, yelling and screaming. Yeah. It's like, okay, like, coach, that's coach being coach. It's not like, oh, this is different now. Like, we need to level up. I'll always remember that as a teacher of like the one time that I kind of basically raised my voice, like it went through the whole school.
And you're here thinking, don't make me actually raise my voice.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's good. Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.